So the agenda for the rest of the afternoon till evening is we have two sessions now back to back, post which we'll break for a 10-15 minute coffee break. And there was a slight change that we made yesterday due to unfortunate circumstances with the speaker we had planned. Vikram was kind enough to take up that session, which will be on AI and research analysis. So the next session, of course, is something that we all might be waiting for, since it's an area of interest, especially in the CFA Society. It's AI and capital markets, and we have Mr. Sumit Chanda, CEO and founder, Jarvis Invest. So Sumit is a visionary in the fintech and investment landscape, renowned for his groundbreaking work in transforming the equity research and asset management ecosystem through AI. With over 2 decades of experience in BFSI in diverse roles, he brings unparalleled expertise in blending financial acumen with technological innovation. Sumit has pioneered the integration of AI-driven predictive models and machine learning algorithms, automating data analysis to deliver highly accurate and timely investment insights. Moderating the session would be Mr. Rajesh Sehgal, Chairperson, CFA Society India, Managing Partner, Equanimity Investments. Rajesh is a results-driven investor with nearly 3 decades of experience, specializing in early-stage investments, emerging markets, private equity, and public equity. With a proven track record of identifying high-growth opportunities in emerging markets, he has successfully guided startups to exits. Alumnus of Wharton and XLRI, he holds a CFA charter and a postgraduate diploma in securities law from GLC Mumbai. So please join me in welcoming Sumit and Rajesh sir as well.
First of all, thank you so much. It's my privilege to be a part of the, invited on the panel of CFA Society India. And I hope I do justice to the session that has been given to me. I am Sumit. I am the CEO and founder of Jarvis. We'll definitely talk more about what we have been doing in Jarvis and all, but just I'll give you an overall background of what we are doing. So unlike the last 2 sessions where we were majorly discussing about the general use cases of AI, voice, image, many other things, this session would be extremely focused towards capital market and nothing else. So I think that goes best with CFAs. It's very deep when we talk about equity market and a couple of other things. Yep. So I would say I started this company 8 years back, more than 8 years back, in fact. The challenge that I was looking to crack was how can I simplify so much of data that's available on the equity markets and bring out very simple solutions. Like 20 years back or 15 years back, if you look, or maybe 20, 25 years back, the Indian markets, for example, were getting impacted only because of events and things happening in India, not something happening in one small country somewhere. But scenarios have changed now. अभी ऐसे होता है कि कहीं पे भी कुछ हो जाए तो Indian market में थोड़ा बहुत impact आता है, positive, negative, it could be anything. So it has become imperative overall to start accounting for everything that's happening across the globe and then build correlations कि आपका market में क्या होने वाला है, आपके portfolio को कैसे impact करने वाला है. So for that, I would say this is not something that can be, this problem cannot be solved on an Excel sheet or any other simple software. So you actually need a very diverse, data-heavy ML, machine learning, deep learning model that can solve these problems. That's how the birth of Jarvis came in. So let's talk about that's okay. I'll use this. So let's talk about the pre-era of AI. जब AI था नहीं and everybody was consuming data from a Bloomberg terminal or a FactSet terminal or a Thomson Reuters terminal, consuming all of these information on an Excel sheet. उसके बाद आपके financial modelings आप बनाएंगे. You will put your assumptions in a large Excel sheet which is probably a DCF model, and that's how you do कि ये stock का ये forecasting है, and that is how I should be buying this stock or not buying this stock, or maybe I should be holding this stock or not. Moreover, if you look at today, the problems in these entire models is obviously if you look at fund management or equity research, it predominantly revolves around fundamentals and technicals. So if I'm talking about long-term investments, it's fundamentals. If I'm talking about short-term investments, it's technical. Sometimes it's blend of both. Now something called quant is also coming up very popularly. The second piece is if you look at a Bloomberg terminal, I don't know how many of you have looked at a Bloomberg terminal. There is a section where you get tons of information towards global events, domestic events, news, everything live. How many of you use it? Nobody, because it's very difficult to use it. आपको एक एक click करना पड़ेगा, पढ़ना पड़ेगा. How much and how many people can do that? So you need a machine to do that. Lastly, if you look at let's talk about a model of fundamental analysis. Now fundamentals do not change between 2 quarters, but a lot can change within the company between 2 quarters. So predominantly जो हम आज तक करते आए हैं, we have looked at the fundamental data, taken up a decision, and we were holding tight until the next quarterly result comes up or the annual result comes up. But today, because of the dynamism out in the market, many things between these 90 days can change, and which can actually should change your stance for that particular stock, which is not happening. So these are some of the problem areas, I would say. Now if you look at the data, now again this is not the complete data. So I've just put few of the fundamentals, few of the time series, and few of the global macro data parameters, not all. Now imagine a panel of 30, 40, 50 analysts, maybe 10 fund managers and a CIO in an AMC. How much can you consume and how much can you process? Right? So there is always a lot of things that you'll have to leave. You know you're leaving, but you'll have to still leave it. Right? Moreover, obviously I've just pointed out 2. I know CFA has a lot of behavioral biases in the curriculum. So, but majorly, I'd just like to quote an example. So, a couple of months back, I met a fund manager friend in BKC in Mumbai, outside a very famous mall, owned by the wealthiest family of the country. And so I asked him to meet me inside in a cafe. He said, no, I don't enter this mall. I don't use any of the products of this family. And he's a fund manager. So can you understand the kind of biasness that can happen in the fund management process? This is just one example. This could be very much valid for everybody. Even tomorrow, if I personally start doing certain analysis and allocations of fund, I might say that, okay, ये company मेरा favorite है, इसमें 10% डालेंगे. I am very bullish. Maybe because I am using some product which I am liking, but not necessarily if the product is good, the company is good, the fundamentals are good. Right, so biasness could be of many types. I've just pointed out two types here, nothing else. Then even from the risk management perspective, so one aspect of it is selection of the right stock, building the right portfolio and investing. Second is your risk management. Now you've invested. अभी करना क्या उस portfolio के साथ? So then I've just put couple of things here. So risk management, it's again becomes, I would say, equally more important aspect of the entire fund management. It could be fund management, it could be your personal portfolio management also. It is a very important factor because that's where there are limitations of how much can we consume. So अगर आपके पास एक 50 स्टॉक का पोर्टफोलियो है, let's talk personally आपके पास अगर 50 स्टॉक का पोर्टफोलियो है, how many of you know exactly what is happening with the life of all those 50 stocks every day? Nobody. Right? So you will probably rely on charts, when to exit, maybe some news, fundamentals, या ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा if you are learned, तो आप quarterly result का वेट करेंगे, quarterly result देखेंगे, उसके बाद आप decision लेंगे. Nothing more than that. Obviously there would be exceptions, but majorly nothing more than that. even from an ethical standpoint, if I'm talking about, from the research standpoint, then there is obviously the first point, which is lack of rationals of a portfolio. You might get, so for example, if you invest in a, in a fund, fund may have its allocation in 30 stocks, 40 stocks. There is no rationale why 2% allocation in a particular stock or 10% allocation in a particular stock. Obviously, fundamentals आपको मिल जाएंगे, but why exactly that pattern of the portfolio? So there are no rationals on that. So you don't know whether there were any biases at the back. That could be one. Second could be, now India is not a market where customer pays a lot of upfront fees. So predominantly it's a brokerage driven or a charges driven market. So be it mutual funds, be it your broker. So you will typically see a lot of products compromising on quality, but I mean, in order to increase the transactions, not in all cases, but even if it's for 5%, 10% cases, that's a breach of ethics. And lastly, the standardizations of the ethical practices across. So when I say across, obviously SEBI has led a lot of frameworks towards what a mutual fund should do. IRD has laid on what an insurance fund should do, but it's not across every band. So it's not, I mean, something that is applicable to a mutual fund may not be applicable to a broker's research analyst. So I think there has to be some standardizations around it, which again humanly is very, very difficult to manage. Okay, so I get a very common question. So when I start explaining somebody कि मैं AI कर रहा हूँ, so these are the few questions that I get. Algo से कैसे अलग है, quant से कैसे अलग है, and so दो उसके अंदर बहुत कुछ लिखा है, but मैं थोड़े में explain करता हूँ. So algo typically is an if then and else logic. चौथा कुछ नहीं सोच सकता. जो आपने लिखा है वो उसी फ्रेमवर्क के अंदर सोचेगा, उसी फ्रेमवर्क के अंदर वो रन कर सकता है and output दे सकता है. Nothing more than that. That's the reason if you have ever dealt with an algo based trades, you would have seen that they are only one season. या तो up market में perform करेगा, या side market में करेगा, या down market में करेगा. One algo cannot operate in all market cycles. So that's the limitation. Now coming to quant, which is say at least 100 times more advanced than an algo. Now this is where very advanced mathematical calculations and statistical calculations can be built in. Machine learning can be used for building quant models, but quant models does not have its own intelligence or its own brain. So generally a quant model को train करने के लिए you give them a lot of historical data and you tell the model कि ये हुआ था past में, आप इसमें से correlation कर लो, pattern recognition कर लो, and you guide me in future अगर इसमें से कोई pattern form होते हुए दिख रहा है, then tell me what to do. That's what primarily quant is. So, and the last part, which is AI. Now AI has its own I would say brains to the business, wherein obviously you give them the entire historical dump, but here the historical dump does not restrict to fundamentals and time series. It can be your news, it can be regulations, compliance. आप पिछले 20 साल में देख सकते हो कि कब किसी, let's talk about banking, कब बैंकिंग के रेगुलेशंस चेंज हुए हैं और बैंकिंग के स्टॉक्स किस तरीके से इम्पैक्ट हुए हैं. व्हेन आई से रेगुलेशंस, आई माइट आल्सो मीन कि ग्लोबल इंटरेस्ट रेट्स कैसे चेंज हुए हैं, इंडिया के इंटरेस्ट रेट्स कैसे चेंज हुए हैं आरबीआई के, एंड बैंक कैसे परफॉर्म करता रहा है, एवरी सिंगल बैंक, नॉट जस्ट बैंक निफ्टी. दिस इज जस्ट वन वेरी वेरी स्मॉल एग्जांपल दैट आई एम ट्राइंग टू गिव यू. बट so all of these factors can be computed in AI, and then what AI can do is it can do the whole lot of correlation at the back end and understand कि ये चलता कैसे business, and when it predicts any future patterns, it continuously keeps doing the risk management system within it. It continuously tracks all the global parameters and it tries and understand कि उनका impact मेरे stock पे या मेरे portfolio पे क्या होने वाला है. Based on that, it continuously keeps on changing its stance. That's what AI is. It's a way more advanced model than what a quant or an algo is. four main areas I would say where an AI play can happen. One is the data integration. So extremely large models can be built. For example, I don't know how many of you are aware, but just the Indian market data points are nearly 500 million. 500 million. So you can imagine how many analysts, fund managers, and what all you would require to process this information. Second is pattern recognition. Now data तो मिल गया 500 million, but ये 500 million के ऊपर pattern built करना पड़ेगा. So that is again a very good core capability that an AI model can bring in, which can build numerable patterns on the market, which may be related or non-correlated. So for example, related could be fundamentals देखता हूँ stock का and stock का performance में देख सकता हूँ. Fundamental सुधरे, performance सुधरा, great, it's all in good shape. अगर वैसे नहीं है तो uncorrelated है. But I can also look at fundamentals and the impact of global macros and the impact of what people are thinking, the public sentiment, and there are many other sentiment sources that we source. For example, news, events, articles, publications, events that are happening across the globe, any transcript that's coming. इन सबको एक साथ consolidate करके we can build multiple patterns, and based on that we can do a lot of predictions. Adaptability, again, from a human standpoint, it sometimes becomes extremely difficult to relearn. मुझे ये आता है, DCF मॉडल हम सबको आता है, but DCF मॉडल को देखने का तरीका दूसरा भी हो सकता है क्या? Probably our brain will say no, because हमने वही पढ़ा है, उसके अलावा कुछ पढ़ा नहीं है. But मशीन ने कहीं से कुछ पढ़ा नहीं है. So machine can do a lot of things based on कि ये मॉडल अगर पिछले 20 साल में ये स्टॉक के लिए चला नहीं है, that means कुछ और चलता है इसको. So वो कुछ और जो है, that the machine can answer. What is that? Last is scenario analysis, which is, of course, it can on a real-time basis do a lot of scenario analysis. If you look at the last 2 months, markets have been extremely choppy. So what all can happen, potentially happen, इस बीच में हमारा बजट था, US interest rates की वजह से मार्केट ज़्यादातर हमारा जनवरी में टैंक हुआ. Then we had our budget, then we had our own policy. So there were 3 instances that were supposed to happen as events, 1 global, 2 domestic events. So the machine has the capability to understand कि जो हम पढ़ते थे ना, what if on Excel. So what if raised to a million कर दो, that's the capability of scenario analysis that the machine can do, and that's how it is able to take the right call at the right time. I'll show you what are the impacts of it. I'll come back to this. Okay, I'll cover that. Okay, just ignore a couple of these. Okay, so these are the impacts of it. These are few stock names which were, I would say, given a buy signal as latest as January. If you look at the last 2, and you can see the kind of performance these stocks have delivered. These are fairly good fundamental stocks, but they may not be large cap, they may not be mid caps, they may not be highly covered, but at the end of the day, these are some hidden gems that are there within the system, which has to be uncovered, but ho nahi pata because the entire process is pretty much manual. So from a manual standpoint, out of the 2200-2300 stocks of NSE, what we can at max look at is about 300-400 stocks, not more than that. So you are actually leaving the balance 1800 stocks, and these are the hidden gems from that. And this is just a very small list. We have got a very long list of stocks which can potentially outperform at any given point of time. Okay. Now what an AI can bring in as a change in the overall scheme of portfolio management या equity research. So एक बहुत बड़ा impact करता है buy decision making के ऊपर, and I will show you some of the live use cases that we are doing in India, outside India, everywhere, जहाँ पे the entire decision making of what to buy, how much to buy, when to buy, फिलहाल buy की बात करता हूँ, everything is being taken by the machine. you build in certain rules कि आपका fund objective क्या है, आपका investment objectives क्या है. Based on that, the machine is capable enough to identify which are the stocks that would suit to this customer and to be put in the portfolio in what proportion. So that's the first part. The second part is the risk management. अभी investment हो गया, अभी वो fund था कि individual था, investment has happened. Now that has to be managed. So now every single parameter, so when I was saying fundamentals, technicals, quants, sentiments, macros, all of those parameters can be looked at every single day, and the portfolio can be compared, and it can be seen whether I need to make any changes in the portfolio. If not, great. If yes, do it. So there's no I would say any bias that is being built in the system कि ये अच्छा है, ये वैसा है, ये तो टाटा की कंपनी है, इसको तो होल्ड करना चाहिए, इसे कभी नहीं बेचना चाहिए. Doesn't look at it. It has its I would say target set. इतना रिटर्न जनरेट करना है, ये ड्रॉ डाउन क्रॉस नहीं करना है. That's it. And last is efficiency of scale. For example, if a broker in India has 100,000 customers, 100,000 customers को दो चीज़ बताता हूँ. एक है कि 100,000 पोर्टफोलियोज है, कुछ तो खरीदा होगा ना कस्टमर ने, पोर्टफोलियो पड़ा होगा ब्रोकर के पास. नाउ इफ द ब्रोकर हैज़ टू एनालाइज एंड गिव अ सॉल्यूशन टू ऑल ऑफ दिस 100,000 कस्टमर्स कि आपके पोर्टफोलियो में क्या है, कितना अच्छा है, कितना बुरा है. आई एम नॉट जस्ट सेइंग अ बाय और सेल, आई एम सेइंग अ वेरी डीप एट्रीब्यूशन रिपोर्ट. आई विल शो यू अ रिपोर्ट ऑल्सो. सो हाउ विल यू डू इट, बिकॉज कस्टमर के पास तो प्रैक्टिकली वो 400 स्टॉक के बाहर भी स्टॉक हो सकता है, वो तो BSE भी ले सकता है, मतलब टेक्निकली उसका यूनियर 5,500-6 हज़ार स्टॉक का है. सो इतना रिसर्च तो किसी के पास होता नहीं है. हाउ विल यू से, करेक्ट, इट्स डिफिकल्ट. सेकेंडली, इफ यू हैड टू टुमारो डिज़ाइन अ प्रोडक्ट फॉर योर कस्टमर, दैट कस्टमर आपके पास आता है, आप ब्रोकर हो, आपके पास 1 लाख कस्टमर है, आपके पास एक कस्टमर आता है जिसके पास 50,000 इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए है. हाउ मेनी ऑफ द ब्रोकर्स विल फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल एंटरटेन? प्रोबेबली नो. आप 50 लाख लेके जाओ, करेगा, ठीक है. सो आप स्केल कैसे ला सकते हो? So through digitalization of these things, irrespective whether you wanted to invest 1,000 rupees or 10 crores or 100 crores, the same system can practically recommend you, understand your persona, recommend your portfolio and help you do the entire investment journey. So that's where the system can practically manage the portfolio of 100,000 customers simultaneously. That's the scale it can reach to. Just cover these things. Last one part is the third part, which is operational and strategic applications. Now, one very important part, especially for larger fund transactions, is transaction management. मुझे अगर 2-5 लाख इन्वेस्ट करना है तो मैं कोई भी स्टॉक ले सकता हूँ, मिल जाएगा, वॉल्यूम भी मिल जाएगा, लिक्विडिटी भी मिल जाएगी, सब हो जाएगा, मार्केट हिलेगा भी नहीं. बट इफ आई एम अ फंड, इफ आई एम अ 10,000 crore fund, and if I want to allocate say 5% to a particular stock, and that particular stock is a small cap or a micro cap, so मैं उसका प्राइस हिलाऊंगा, right? So we have to be intelligent enough to understand how do I place my trades without moving the market, and I efficiently get the best rates to buy. Same is on the sell side also. Again, this uses advanced models of machine learning and deep learning. This is something that manually, humanly करना बहुत difficult है. So that's another one very big use case, especially for the markets, international markets, जहाँ पे volume बहुत कम है. Like India is fairly a very good volume market. US is a very good market. There are a couple of more nice markets, but if you look at, leave the top 12 to 15 markets, you will not get volume or liquidity anywhere in the world. That's where these intelligence are required. And even in India, if you want to run a small cap fund, where eventually उसको आपको ग्रो करना है, जनरली स्मॉल कैप फंड्स बहुत ज़्यादा ग्रो नहीं कर पाते, एक सीलिंग आती है, उसके बाद स्कीम बंद कर देते हैं, नया स्कीम चालू करते हैं, दूसरे की स्कीम है. बट इफ़ यू वांट टू ग्रो बियॉन्ड दैट, दिस इज व्हाट यू वुड रिक्वायर. एंड द एथिकल कंसिडरेशंस हियर कुड बी, AI जितना ब्लैक बॉक्स लगता है, एक्चुअली उतना ब्लैक बॉक्स है नहीं. सो AI कैन बी एक्सप्लेन्ड. सो जितने भी पैटर्न रिकग्निशंस चलते हैं, एंड बेस्ड ऑन दोज पैटर्न रिकग्निशंस जितने भी रिकमेंडेशंस होते हैं, दोज कैन बी एक्सप्लेन्ड इन अ स्पेसिफिक फॉर्मेट, दोज कैन बी ऑडिटेड एट एनी गिवन पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम, बिकॉज एक तो इतना रैंडम होता है, इतने स्केल पे होता है. लाइक 100,000 कस्टमर्स है, 100,000 कस्टमर्स को मैं किसको बाय दे रहा हूँ, किसको सेल दे रहा हूँ, पीछे मेरा रीज़न कुछ और है क्या, मैं खुद फ्रंट रनिंग कर रहा था उस स्टॉक पे, all of those things can be audited because everything is recorded in the system. So that's a very good ethical ground to follow. And lastly, because everything is data at the end of the day, जो मैं दे रहा हूँ वो भी data है, जो आ रहा है मेरे पास वो भी data है. So we have to, I mean, when I say we, AI companies overall have to follow a very strict like GDPR and equivalent guidelines across on data protection and many other things. So I think adoption of AI also gives you a lot of scope जहाँ पे you can implement ethical practices in your overall business. Now I'll talk about few of the use cases. I'll show you some of the use cases rather. We have time. Now these are the 4 markets we are currently having our products. We started with India. Today we have our product in Saudi Arabia where we are managing a mutual fund. We have it in Australia where we are managing a super funds. जैसे इंडिया में PF होता है, there they have called something called as superannuation fund. So we manage the super funds in Australia and in the Australian market and NYSE and Nasdaq in the US. So this is the asset management use case for us, जहाँ पे this is specifically the 4th largest asset management company in Saudi Arabia. We have joined with them to co-launch a mutual fund in the Saudi Arabian market on the Saudi Arabian market. So India नहीं आ रहा पैसा, ये उसी का market जो है तड़ावुल है, जैसे हमारा Sensex है, they have got तड़ावुल. So the investment is happening in Tadawul. Now just to tell you the complexity of that market, there are 412 stocks in that market. उसमें से and the total market cap is $2.8 trillion. Out of that, just Aramco is $2.1 trillion. बाकी 411 स्टॉक इज 700 बिलियन. ठीक है. सो उसमें अगर आपको एक $1 बिलियन का फंड चलाना है, आप ट्रांजैक्शन कैसे प्लेस करोगे? सारा पैसा आरामको में ही जाएगा, राइट? सो दैट्स वेयर द इंटेलिजेंस कम्स इन. आई विल शो यू. वी हैव गॉट अ लाइव फंड. Yep, this is a live fund. This is, I think, this is started on 29th November. This started on 29th November. You can see the number of stocks in this, 60 stocks. You can see the live allocations. You can see the fund performance, 5.14%. And trust me, ये इंडिया जैसा उतना lucrative market नहीं है. It's a very difficult, low volatility, low return market. मतलब 10% साल का कमा दो तो you're the king. So 29 November till date, we have generated 5.14% returns. You can see the investment size, 500 million. And this is the advanced decline of the stocks that we have recommended. And this is the entire portfolio. इसमें आराम को होगा ज़रूर, but I don't know कितना उसमें है allocation. But you can see the allocations and the returns in the last 2-3 months. And the entire thing, so right from your transaction, your risk management system, your benchmarking, everything can be managed using this product in that market. Similar product can be launched in any market, be it India, be it any other markets. So that's the largest use case that we have, which is fund management. And this is the process that we follow. So when we go to a new jurisdiction, and I'm saying what we do because that can be done. So from that perspective. So when we go to a new jurisdiction, we look at what does the regulator say. Regulatory constraints क्या है आपके? जैसे इंडिया में भी म्यूचुअल फंड के regulations है कुछ. So we consume those. Then we look at the investment committee of that particular company कि आपके क्या constraints है, आपके क्या demands है, आप बताओ. Then third we look at कि आपको fund क्या बनाना है. What are the fund objectives? And all of these things on a real-time basis we can ingest in the system and we can run it. Maybe first time जब हम run करें, the performance may not be there. शायद से negative alpha है. But the system can be trained again and again and again and probably millions of times. तब जाके system identifies a way to maneuver around those constraints and still generate an alpha. That's when we publish it. So that's the smarter way I would say that AI has over any other system. So we look at the entire objectives. We identify the set of stocks in that market which will perform in the next some time. then there is also a scientific method to identify what would be the allocation of the stocks in that portfolio. Then the transaction placement, and transaction placement में मैंने बताया जैसे there is also intelligence in that. How much do I place every day, every second? So there's an intelligence built in that. And then the risk management system comes in, wherein I again track all those stocks, all the parameters, and on a real time basis I run the risk management on the platform कि मुझे कब rebalance करना है, कब कौन सी चीज़ को exit देनी है, सारी चीज़. And we also do a back testing in this entire process, but I'll show it to you as we move ahead. Okay. The second product that we have is equity research. Now, taking the cue from what I was mentioning earlier, NSE की बात करते हैं. There are 2200 stocks. From an investment team's perspective, शायद मैं इसका मतलब खुद का research, I can take research from anybody else also, सब ले दे के मैं 350-400 स्टॉक पे रिसर्च कर सकता हूँ, 1800 फिर भी छूट रहा है मुझसे. So what, and again, every institution, every investment institution wants to be the first. In the sense, quarterly result आया, मेरा result सबसे पहले आना चाहिए. How can you do that? Because the average size of a quarterly result is 500-600 pages. And I have that, I'll show you in some time. Adani का है मेरे पास. So it's 4 to 600 pages. Small cap है तो 200 पेज का होगा. Right? So you will take some time to read it, you will take some time to consume that, and then eventually आपका DCF बना के projection forecast करके आपको बताना पड़ेगा कि what's my stance in this quarter. So if you say it's a buy, फिर आपको research report भी लिखना है कि buy क्यों बोल रहा हूँ मैं वो चीज़. Right? So all of these will take about couple of weeks for one particular stock. Now the system can practically look at every stock. The moment the quarterly or the annual results are published, in the next 3 minutes, it can give you the verdict whether it's a buy, sell or a hold, and it can even write a research report on your behalf. So, and this research report can completely be customized as per the requirement of the company or the analyst or the fund managers. So, this, I'll show you the sample report. This is a sample report, JK Tire. You can see this is a 20-pager report. Obviously पूरा तो नहीं पढ़ा सकता, but I'm just scrolling it. So what happens in this is that I can give you a complete stance of what has happened in that particular quarter with that company, a detailed one. If I'm saying a buy, for what all reasons I'm saying a buy for that particular stock on that particular quarter, और इसका आगे क्या होगा. All of those things can be covered in 3 minutes. So you can see the speed of execution that can potentially happen. Now, the second opportunity where out of the balance 1800 stocks जो आपने नहीं देखा, obviously मैं देख रहा हूँ, system is looking, when I say मैं is Jarvis is looking, and Jarvis can find potential opportunities. Maybe उसमें से 100 stock ऐसे हैं जो हमको लग रहा है अच्छे, जो मैंने list दिखाया था हो सकता है वो stocks हो. So as an analyst you would want to bring those things on the table. That's what we can do. Now we understand that as an analyst you were not covering that stock. आपने देखा नहीं था वो स्टॉक आज तक, मैं नया ला रहा हूँ आपके पास, तो डेफिनेटली आपको उसके बिजनेस मॉडल के ऊपर कुछ पता नहीं है एज ऑफ नाउ. सो वी हेल्प देम क्रिएट अ स्टॉक कवरेज रिपोर्ट. नाउ टिपिकली दीज कवरेज रिपोर्ट्स आर अबाउट 40 to 50 पेजेस, जहाँ पे वी टॉक अबाउट एवरीथिंग दैट द कंपनी डज. इट्स डोमेस्टिक एंड ग्लोबल अपॉर्चुनिटीज, थ्रेट्स, ESG इनिशिएटिव्स, कॉम्पिटिशन क्या कर रहा है, उनका प्रोडक्ट क्या कर रहा है, कॉम्पिटिशन का प्रोडक्ट क्या कर रहा है, व्हाट आर द फाइनेंशियल मॉडल्स. Typically looks like this, MRF. You can see this is a 66-pager report. These are all the things that can be covered in this report, and this report takes roughly about an hour to generate. So otherwise इतना सारा information collect करने में ही शायद हफ्ते या महीने लग सकते हैं, and आप करोगे तो भी कितने कंपनी का कर सकते हो, 2, 4, 10. We can practically provide you on a click for all 2200 stocks. Forget all 2200, all 12,000 stocks for the market that I am today catering to. So that also builds a lot of edge for you out in the market. अगर जैसे मैंने आपको लिस्ट में स्टॉक्स दिखाए थे, वो मैं आपको अगर क्वार्टरली रिजल्ट आते ही दे दूँ, then imagine the kind of opportunity that you can get much before anybody else would get into that piece. And lastly, smaller quarterly reports. Now, this may not be for an analyst purpose, this could be for a customer use case. जैसे broker का example मैं देता हूँ, आपके as a broker अगर आपके पास client है जिसके पास 40 stocks है and client को पता नहीं वो company क्या करता है, वो तो यहाँ वहाँ से सुन के इसने बताया उसने बताया न्यूज़ में देखा पेपर में पढ़ा करके ले लिया उसने, ठीक है. बट if immediately, like under 3 minutes, the moment the results is published, if the broker pops up to the client saying that कि ये देखो तुम्हारा ये stock का result आया, this is the thing, then that's a value added service for the customer. Non complicated report, very simple, non complicated report. कस्टमर को यही देखना है कि मेरा प्राइस जो है आज का वो कौन से प्राइस बैंड में बैठ रहा है, उसका सेल्स ग्रो हो रहा है क्या, उसका एक्सपेंस ग्रो हो रहा है, फॉल हो रहा है, क्या हो रहा है, उसका ईपीएस क्या इम्पैक्ट कर रहा है, नेट प्रॉफिट बढ़ रहा है कि नहीं, एंड मे बी वन स्मॉल पैराग्राफ ऑन व्हाट द कंपनी डज एंड व्हाट डज द क्वार्टरली रिपोर्ट से. दैट्स इट. इतना तो कस्टमर पढ़ सकता है. एंड दिस एक्ट्स एज अ वैल्यू एडेड सर्विसेज फ्रॉम द ब्रोकर्स और द वेल्थ मैनेजमेंट साइड. Then this is a very interesting product. It is used by one of the 3 leading business news channels in India for processing their information on a real-time basis. This is where I was saying if you look at Adani, this is the Adani's annual report. ये करीबन 597 पेजेस का है. नाउ इमेजिन एक तो अदानी है तो एक कंपनी नहीं है, सब्सिडरीज कितने हैं उसके अंदर, करेक्ट. अभी इसके अंदर इंटीग्रेटेड है तो सारे के रिपोर्ट्स है, राइट. सो हाउ मेनी पीपल एंड हाउ मच टाइम विल बी रिक्वायर्ड टू रीड थ्रू दिस एंड गिव एन एनालिसिस. सो व्हाट माय सिस्टम कैन डू, एंड इसके अंदर आप देखो कितना नॉइज है, डिज़ाइन है, अननेसेसरी टेक्स्ट है. सो again tabular format में भी information है. You can see various formats of information that you can see here. Now what we can simply do is, this is a document, I upload the document, this is the file, I process it. It will give me what's important out of this report. That's it, no noise. And ये जो उसका जो भी आउटपुट आएगा, I also don't know क्या आएगा, जो भी आउटपुट आएगा, that can also be customized as per the requirement. So obviously there is one standard. अभी जिनके लिए हमने बनाए हैं उनको ये चाहिए था, but for somebody else it could be something else. So those outputs can be defined and these can be customized accordingly. And these can practically take any format. So ये तो मैंने आपको एक annual report का PDF format बताया, but if you look at an Apple का results, now Apple का results typically live होता है. They would come live and they would do it. So you will have these links that will come, live link. I can actually integrate those links into this machine, जो 30-second lag में ये report generate करके मुझे दे सकता है. Similarly, it could be an image file, like I'll show you meanwhile. Yep. You can see this is a Jeffries report on Alchem Laboratories. ये image file है. Now typically understand कि आपको किसने WhatsApp पे भेज दिया image निकाल के. पढ़ना तो पड़ेगा. ऐसे आपके पास Goldman Sachs का आया, Jeffries का आया, कोटक का आया, ICICI का रिपोर्ट आया, आप क्या क्या पढ़ोगे और by the time you actually take an action, you miss the bus. So it can actually read through these informations also and then give you what's important. And what's important is something that you need to tell कि आपके लिए important क्या है. It can customize and it can give it to you. Still processing. So meanwhile, I think we'll continue doing. So this is a very important tool जहाँ पे it can look at the quarterly reports or any PDF document. It can look at any video. It can look at any textual information, any news, any research report, consolidate everything for one company and give you the output. And ये information दो तरीके से हो सकता है. एक है कि आप feed करो, मेरी तरफ से इंटेलिजेंस नहीं आएगा कुछ, एंड सेकेंड इज कि आप भी फीड करो, मेरी तरफ से भी इंटेलिजेंस आएगा, बिकॉज वी ऑल्सो हैव द एंटायर grid of information that's being stored in the database for us. Okay, now this is another product that we provide to wealth management companies, family offices, जहाँ पे if you look at the Indian market का ही example मैं देता हूँ, a portfolio can be instantly generated and you can define कि आपको portfolio किस theme का चाहिए. It can consume all themes and it can generate a portfolio for you live. It can even do a back testing and show you the report कि इस तरीके से ये perform करता अगर ये scenario होते तो. All of those things. Let me see if I can show you. Yeah. So you can see here, I can select my market caps. I can select any of the sectors that you can see. So for example, I select mid and small. I don't touch the sectors for now. Say moderate or say moderately aggressive. 5 years, equity, say a crore. It will take about 2 to 3 minutes for the portfolio to get generated. Meanwhile, I will show you how a typical backtesting report looks like. This is how it looks. This is not the same. ये दूसरा दिखा रहा हूँ because this takes about an hour to generate. It goes back history and does a lot of stuffs. So there are two strategies that Jarvis's portfolio management publishes. One is जो blue line आपको दिख रहा है, blue line जो दिख रहा है, that will have a real-time risk management system, which will ensure that कि आपका drawdown एक threshold से नीचे गिरे नहीं. And the purple line that you can see is where the portfolios are recommended by Jarvis, but the rebalancings are dynamically done only on the 90th day. Like every 3 months the rebalancing is done. Now not necessarily the entire portfolio will churn out, but it can substantially change. So you can see the performance of both, and I'm showing you it against Nifty 50, and I can actually look at any other benchmark also, say a BSE 200, anything, Sensex, mid-cap, and you can see the difference in performance against on a 5 years period against 100%, it is 285 and 198% returns. So it's almost double or 3 times the kind of returns generated. It can give you a lot of further analytics of how the portfolio has performed. Now you can see it's a very unique scenario where the black line is benchmark, by the way, where the volatility is lesser than benchmark and the returns are higher than benchmark. So typically हमने आज तक क्या सुना है कि more risk is more return, or rather more return is more risk. So this is a classic combination, and you will find this across any of the portfolio that we built. This is also one of the use case that we have built, जहाँ पे we would recommend you one high conviction stock to buy practically every day for your consumption. And this is again a very interesting product, portfolio optimizer, जो मैं बता रहा था that if the broker has 100,000 client और client के पास अगर portfolio है, how do you monitor all those portfolios and give a feedback to the client? Now let's assume this is the portfolio that the client has. This is random, real stocks, real prices of those dates. ठीक है? Oh, by the way, you've got the report, Adani report. What's important? So as I was saying that this is specifically built for one of the business news channels in India. उनको ये चाहिए था. But if somebody else wants in a different format, can be generated. So tell me how much of man hours cut and efforts cut here? Huge, right? I'm not showing all the capabilities, नहीं तो बहुत time लगेगा. Cool. Your portfolio is ready. This is the portfolio. It's even saying what is the potential returns, what is the potential volatility, and what's the Sharpe ratio for this portfolio. It is also saying you how much to buy, what's the current price, what is the allocation, and the quantity, all of it. And I had selected mid and small cap, तो ये उसी में से देगा. Now again, how much time is saved in doing this? Okay, I was showing you this one. So I'll just pick this portfolio. It might take few seconds or maybe half a minute. Okay, it didn't. So it's just confirming that these are the stocks that I have. I run the portfolio health check and it will give me a complete checkup of what I hold, what are the good things, what are the bad things. If I need to make any changes, it will suggest. It can even help you rebalance, but वो इस पे दिखेगा नहीं आपको. मतलब from within your portfolio, I can even trigger a rebalance within your portfolio itself, which can improve the performance. Like for example, again quoting the example of the last 2 months, beginning of December, an investor could have asked for कि मेरा volatility कम करो portfolio में से, and हम कर देते थे. So you can say this is how the entire report can be generated. Now some information like liquidity synopsis, tail stocks, these are something that you will not get anywhere out. Top sectors contributing, bottom sectors contributing your performance, and your performance can be with, you can map it against anything that you want. Any say Nifty bank, or maybe this is a small and mid cap, so I'll do it against mid cap 100. So the portfolio is performing better than the mid cap. Then you can see here for every stock we can practically define what is the risk score, whether it is high, low, और ये रोज चेंज हो सकता है. It is so dynamic. Then fundamentals and technical indicators, your sector level weightages, and few other parameters in terms of आपके portfolio में क्या है, कितना है, and everything around. Yep. I think these are few of the things that we are currently doing in the Indian market, in the US market, Saudi Arabia, and Australia. But beyond that, what we are also doing is working on a lot of other projects. Like you can see, quantitative factors, quant models होते हैं. So we are implementing basic quant models के ऊपर how can we utilize AI and make it much more smarter. We are doing some of those things. You can see a lot of things, in fact, valuation and forecasting. So every possible model that you can think of valuation, like DCF is just one model, ऐसे बहुत models है. So we are kind of implementing AI on each of the models, and we will provide it to you as an output. So quarterly result आया, मैंने आपको buy बोल दिया, research report भी दे दिया, आपका DCF model भी दे दिया, or any other model that you want. So these are some of the use cases that we are building on. Thank you so much. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks. Thank you. Fantastic. I mean, this was really a lot of information for all of us, especially after lunch. I was trying to figure out how many people are trying to keep awake, but I think I must congratulate you that you were able to, make sure that everybody is up there. So no, very nice conversation. I think a few things I am reminded of as you were going through all of this, especially because you started with the past, how it used to be, and then Jarvis and how things are now. I joined the asset management industry in the mid 90s, and most of what you said, how things used to be done, I've lived through it. Annual reports were not online; they were not published. We used to collect annual reports. That itself was an exercise, by the way. I don't know how many of you, like me, have worked in the capital markets in those years, but you would actually collect annual reports. मतलब वो prize होता था. We used to buy one share of every company so that you get an annual report delivered to your house. You didn't have access to that. Then, the second point that you mentioned about analysis and data, so you used to feed all the data physically into Excel, all of that, and that was, termed in those years as sophisticated, very sophisticated. And here you have, I think the whole world has changed with this whole AI thing and technology, etc. But a few things come to mind. And the first, let me start a little macro. So do you think with all this, which is available at the click of a button, and I mean, you're very apologetic when you say, "Arey, isko aadha ghanta lag jayega," things that would otherwise take half a month, you're being generous on that. But do you think we are moving towards an era where humans will be replaced by AI, at least in terms of the industry that we all come from, which is portfolio management, equity research, asset management and all that? Are we moving towards that?
So I believe that the technology is not here to replace the humans, especially in this case, the analysts, fund managers and everybody, but it's definitely going to replace the ones who are not embracing technology. So I would say a human plus AI will always be greater than just AI or just human. So I believe, obviously, I think you were only saying that the new curriculum of CFA, has some of these things, and I believe these things will actually take you to the next level of understanding of what more can be done using technology and not just, shying away from having a tech support at the back.
Good, so we all will get jobs. Thank you. I think the other macro question that I need to understand from you is, you did show us some of, quite a few things which are possible today, and you also had a slide on what you guys are working on for the future, etc. But can you share with us a few trends globally in this whole asset management or investment market, capital markets, which you think will become predominantly the way to do things in the next 5-10 years?
I believe the basic jobs of data extraction, processing it, cleaning it in a specific manner, all of these things will completely get automated. But specific cases where human intelligence would be required will be there definitely even tomorrow, because that is something, because the AI is not going to, for example, the AI is not going to do the management meetings. It's not going to go into parties where they, cross hands with a lot of analysts, promoters maybe. So I think these are certain intelligences which only a human would be able to add it. Apart from that, anything that's too, I would say, monotonous in nature, no-brainer jobs will completely be automated.
Well, what I did for 5-10 years of my career in the beginning, you just called it monotonous and doesn't require any brain. This is an interesting conversation. But it's been a huge leap. I think we all take these things that you showed us more or less for granted. We just press a button and we say, "Arey, 10 seconds ho gaye, ab tak answer nahi aaya," right? I mean, so I think it's a huge leap that we've taken. But let's get a little specific into what Jarvis can do for us, and I think more importantly, what AI brings to this whole equity research, portfolio management world of ours. You just shared that humans are not going to be replaced, but I think we should look at AI as more an augmentation of resources for what humans bring value to. But let's drill down a little bit. So, first of all, let's start with data. Data is so easily available, freely available, so much so that there's too much of data around. From a 25-year back when the industry just about started using technology, the key success factor was access to data. Do you get that data before others? And I can share from my personal experience. When I started working at Templeton, I used to cover the Japanese market. And when a company in Japan would publish results, it would get translated into English after a week. So basically, whatever the result was, I knew from the price action in the week gone by, कि क्या result अच्छा था कि खराब था. And now it is instantaneous and all of that. So when and we have a lot of professionals here who are either managing portfolios, or I also see a lot of aspirants, CFA aspirants, students, and I think for their benefit, if you could tell them how would the world be for them if they want to get into, for example, equity research. So and in light of AI. So with AI around, is equity research even a profession they should be aspiring for? If yes, is it a promising career given how technology can augment equity research?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a very promising career to be in. I personally also drive a lot of things internally within the company, wherein I know the human intelligence is still required. So I think, as I said in the previous answer also, taking a cue from that, I think anything that requires a bit of intelligence, I think that would still stay out in the equity research or the fund management space, even for all of us, and that's going to change. I would say the type of research that we are used to today, that will change in the next 10 years, but there will still be some scope of adding the human value to the entire ecosystem of equity research and fund manager. That's there to stay.
Okay, good. So we will have jobs. Good to know. I think the other thing that always comes to mind when one thinks of applications of AI in equity research, equity portfolio management, and it's essentially overall capital markets, is an area where, once upon a time I did a lot of work on that, the efficient market hypothesis. Now with AI, doing all that it does, not only in terms of portfolio management, etc., but also in terms of trading and the kind of volume of trading that we are seeing across assets and the swiftness with which it can happen, would this lead to efficient markets, or does AI bring more inefficiency to the market?
I would say it would work in a very specific area. Like for example, I cannot think of all mutual funds and all brokers in India implementing an AI system today. It will fail. So it would typically be used by maybe some of the AMCs, some of the brokers in specific capacities. So for example, we have got a very clear mandate internally for us that if we are managing a large cap fund for somebody, we will not manage large cap for anybody else. So we will manage a small cap or a flexi cap, but not a large cap, because we know the kind of inefficiencies that we ourselves can bring out in the market. So keeping that in mind, obviously these, we have to follow certain ground rules, following which we'll have to do. Otherwise, a lot of internal disruptions can happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, what on this aspect, I think what I'm trying to understand is, because of the availability of technology so readily to everybody, each of us, and you showed us retail module and for institutions, etc., the information asymmetry disappears.
Yes.
More or less.
Yes.
At certain stage it will disappear. So will that make markets more efficient, or will it make markets more inefficient? And so the next step where I'm leading after this is, how does all of this impact alpha generation? If everything is available to everybody at the same time, hypothetically speaking, with this technology, how does a fund manager like us generate any alpha? Does it become challenging?
No, actually, I would say it would be much easier than what it is today. One is that while it is good to hypothetically understand that the usage could be by everybody, practically it might not happen that way. So obviously, if you look at about 11 odd crores Demat account holders, I might say not even a crore, that to a very high number, would be user of an AI kind of a technology. So from that perspective, I think the efficiency will always stay in the market. Now coming to the next point, which is will it be so difficult for the fund managers to? So that's where I said that a fund manager today has to embrace technology and accept the fact that AI can help and not replace. So once we get into that shoes, then the fund manager themselves can feed in a lot of information to make the system more efficient as per what he wants and not what is readily available to them. So that's where the efficiency for individual fund managers can also come in.
Excellent. Enough of talking about the returns part of it. Let's talk about the other side of the coin, which is the risk. So what kind of specific risks does the introduction of AI into capital markets, what are the risks associated with it? What does it bring? What should we as practitioners be aware of when we are using AI models, when we are using AI for research, or the portfolio management area? What are those risks that are being introduced which are not very apparent?
I think the biggest risk is the ethical compromise risk, I would say, because if you look at us, we at the provider of the technology, we technically know what's happening out in the market, what my machine is throwing, what the mutual fund in Saudi is buying, selling, everything. So I think, and we internally have got a very specific, I would say, policy to protect these things. So right at a development stage or a deployment stage, it is completely decentralized. So no one person knows everything. Nobody has the access of everything. So it's in a very simple language, but we have got a very detailed policy around that. So from that perspective, I think this is one of the very, very big risks that we can see. And apart from that, I would say the rest would be from an infrastructure point. If say the mutual fund is heavily dependent on the tech to perform and the server does not operate. So
that happens very regularly. I think some of us have experienced that, no? On the apps, have you been trading and the system doesn't work sometimes?
Yes. So obviously we have taken certain proactive calls even on that front, and as the scale increases, we will also increase the scale of security and distribution of the servers, databases, and everything. So we will scale as the scale happens.
Excellent. Another interesting point that you made, and I think it'll all help all of us if you can elaborate a little bit on that. You said traditional finance says risk and return are two sides of the same coin. So if you have more risk, only then you can get more return, or if you're getting more return, then essentially there's more risk. But then you demonstrated and you said that we can do it consistently. We can generate higher risk with higher return with lower risk.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? We would all love that world. No risk, very low risk, very high return.
So I would say the most important part, what we have analyzed over the last 8 years, is timing. So not risk, not return, not volatility, it is the timing that matters. You might have the rightest time to enter into the most riskiest stock and exit well in time. You are not taking any risk. So, I would say everything around what we have built is around the timing. So from that perspective, we are able to maintain a high level of Sharpe in whatever we generate, Sharpe ratio. Our risks are considerably, volatilities rather, not risk, volatilities are considerably lower than the benchmark, whereas our returns are mostly or almost at least 78% of the times are higher than the benchmark. Because we somehow could identify the timing aspect of entry and exit.
So technology is going to help us make higher returns, adjusted for risk. Let's all subscribe to Jarvis immediately. I think one other thing that always comes to mind when we think of AI's applications into capital markets, and that is about data security, data privacy, all of that. So as we start using AI models, and I think even in the earlier session somebody brought it up about DeepSeek, etc. And I think the panelist was very clear saying it's not just DeepSeek. You're submitting all your data to any other model that you have, right? Whether it's Chinese or not. How does one, and you did mention about how distributed systems you have, and therefore the ethics part is taken care of. But how does one, get assured as a user of AI models about not just data privacy, but also data security? And every now and then we hear, this credit card numbers have been out. You get emails from Google saying, please change your password because few million accounts have been hacked. How do you ensure, for your customers and or not just about you, but generally all the AI models out there, if we are subscribing to it and if we are using those models, how can we be assured that our data is not public in a way?
So I can answer that in two parts. One is for the retail side of the business where I'm actually interacting with the retail client. The second part is where I'm interacting with the B2B clients like the mutual fund or a family office or a PMS house or anybody, broker. So in the retail client's case, in both the cases, in fact, we are sufficiently guarded from an information security point of view. We own all the necessary certifications post adhering to every policy for maintaining and managing the data. Moreover, when it's B2B, then we follow very strict guidelines and guardrails with the client. So it is a part of the agreement that we sign in. Either it is deployed on their prem, or else at least the sensitive information is always stored on their prem, whereas the entire AI infra is being provided by us. So that way we are able to manage, but in certain cases where we only are the repositories of the client data, again it's guarded by the policies that we already follow.
And one thing that AI has enabled and we've seen that really come and become mainstream actually over the last decade or so, is alternative data.
Yeah.
So, if you could share, some bits about how AI is being used to analyze alternative data, like for example, social media, satellite imagery, etc., etc. And we've heard of stories and we've heard of applications, but how can something like this be used?
Absolutely. So, see, social media data is one of the most used data, I would say. Having said that, when we started off, like this, I'm talking about 6 years back. So, our thought process was more the data, more is the accuracy. But over the years, we fell flat on our face, saying that okay, no, quality data means more accuracy. So, while we were consuming anything and everything that was coming to us, today we have kind of scrapped almost everything. Among the social media, we only look at Twitter, nothing else today. So, and then we have got our own methods of analyzing the sentiments of Twitter. Plus, there are many other sources where we look at. These are not specifically people conversations that are happening. Other sources where we kind of generate the sentiment. It could be news, events, articles, as I mentioned, transcripts, certain forums where the fund managers interact. So, some of these informations keeps coming to us. What was the extension of the question?
No, I just lost track because you just said something that Elon Musk would be very happy to hear. Say, "Baki kuch nahi, khali Twitter." Exactly what he keeps saying all the time. No, I think no. What I was trying to understand is, with all this alternative data sources that are available, satellite imagery, etc. You touched upon social media, but just satellite imagery or so many other alternative data that are available online freely.
Right.
How do you use them, or how do others who are using AI models incorporate all of that into their analysis to have better predictions or better models?
See, a lot of it is honestly not very relevant even today in the Indian markets, but a lot relevant in the US markets. So while we are playing out with a lot of models, but we are seeing that it's not, as I'm saying, not much relevant for our own markets, works for the US markets. But for us, I mean, for example, now we have started looking at something which is based on astrological predictions. So it's so basically we have started analyzing as a side gig whether the moon cycles and all of those have any impacts on the stock. And because see, it's not the moon cycles, but based on the moon cycles, the businesses get impacted in specific manner. And can those things be certain parameters which can actually impact the prices of my stock? Is what we are trying to do. It might take us a couple of months, but side gig we are doing.
Wow, what else? We have God in the mix. I think in the paucity of time, let me just ask you one last question, and purely for our benefit, everybody's benefit. Your thoughts on what will AI become for capital markets? I mean, we all saw a demonstration of what all can be done. Research can be done, understanding PDFs and annual reports and summarizing and portfolio. You just compose a portfolio on the fly like that with weightages and all of that. You also said there's rebalancing module. So I think all of this is what we all do or want to do as in our careers, and all of this can be done by the machine. So it'll be very interesting to hear your thoughts because you spend a lot of time on this. Where is all of this headed? And we spoke about that in the beginning where you said this is going to augment what humans do. But really when you have so many different facets which, I don't call them algos anymore, and you really made out that distinction, which AI actually handles very efficiently. So when it can be all encompassing, right, then where is the role of the human? Except parties and having a glass of wine, all of that is great. Or conversations with the management over a round of golf at Oxford Golf Course. Other than that,
so I would say for now, I'll answer again in two parts. What is today and what is after maybe 10, 12, 15 years. So today, I would still say that not many of the final decision makings will be done by the machine. I can give you. So if you are running a 10,000 crore fund, you will not just take a punt on what I am asking you to do, like an app asking you to do something on a 10,000 crore. So probably I can throw out all the possible information relevant and required for you and your team's analysis on the table for you. But you take the final call is what is going to remain for now.
So in this answer, can you also weave in regulation somehow? how does a regulator see all of this?
Okay.
I am the fund manager, but I am doing nothing. I am playing golf, I am attending parties, and this Mr. Jarvis tells me what to do. I come into office and I just do it.
Right.
So regulator has to say something about this.
Absolutely. So honestly, currently it is there are no commentaries on that. Obviously, there are various licenses which are there are some comments on specific licenses, but not all. So even we are trying from our end to speak to them and try and understand what could be their stance in case any of, because it's us today, it could be 10 companies tomorrow. So it is going to come sooner or later. It could be Jarvis, it could be somebody else, that doesn't matter. But so there has to be some stance from the regulator's side now. So that is something that we are trying and seeking from them. Having said that, so far they have just commented on usage of GPT, Gemini or other competitive models, that you have to have a disclosure to the customers that you are using some of these models. But in our case, we are not using, we don't have to declare any of this.
The earlier question, future.
Yeah, future.
We address the now.
Yes.
Now about 5-10 years out.
I would say the future, not 5, but maybe 10 years from today, I would say the entire model that we are looking at and understanding will completely change. So probably we might not have to do, so like Jarvis, there could be 1,000 companies. Even in India, there could be hundreds and thousands of companies. Many of the models that probably I've built over the last 8 years, probably somebody with a $100 billion budget in the US can build it on the fly like a GPT, right? So all of this is possible. So I would say the way we are looking at equity research, analyzing stocks, markets, macros, building portfolios, deploying them, managing risk, I would say the definitions of all of these things will completely change. It will not remain what we are seeing and doing, practicing today. But what it can turn into, can't say, but it will definitely move to a much, much more advanced model. We may get into other asset classes, we don't know.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Sumit Chanda for you.
Thank you so much.
Very nice. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Could I invite Mr. Sanjay Parekh to give a token of appreciation to Sumit and Rajesh?
Thank you, sir.